Today is the 19th day of the month of Cheshvan. We are in the middle of chapter 14, discussing the laws of Pesukei D'Zimra, one of the earlier sections of the morning service. We will be doing paragraphs 4 through the end of the chapter, paragraph 8. Paragraph 4. There's a beautiful prayer that is in the beginning of the Pesukei D'Zimra section called the Mizmar Lasoda. This actually is Psalm number 100. And like all Psalms, it was written by King David. Mizmar Lasoda is a prayer thanking God for the amazing stuff that He does for us. It's meant to be a replacement for a Karban Toda, a Toda offering that was brought in temple times. If somebody felt like God did something extra special, they would then bring this Toda offering to thank God. So this is a replacement for that. Because that, we say it while standing, we say it with a lot of joy. It's a very beautiful paragraph. In the Art Scroll Prayer Book, it will be found on page 64. When you get to page 74, we start a paragraph which starts out with the Vayevarach David, translated as, and David blessed Hashem, blessed God. When we get to that prayer, we're supposed to stand up, and we say standing until we finish Yishtabach on page 82. We're also supposed to stand for the Kaddish, which follows Yishtabach. On page 78 in the Art Scroll Siddur, we have a paragraph which starts out, Az Yashir, then Moses sang. This was a song which Moses sang, and he led the Jews in singing after the miracle of the splitting of the sea, when the Jews were saved from the Egyptians, and this is really the culmination of the Exodus from Egypt. Therefore, when we say it, we're supposed to try putting ourselves in the place of the Jews that just finally, after centuries, are done with Egypt. There's no going back to Egypt. The Egyptians were decimated. There's nothing to go back to. There's no way for the Egyptians to get them back. Can you imagine that joy at that being saved? Like a couple hours earlier, their lives are in danger again after finally escaping the Egyptians. Now their lives are in danger once more. And now here's the final Exodus. The Egyptians are gone. There's no way the Egyptians are getting them back. So we're supposed to try putting ourselves in that mindset when we say this Az Yashir paragraph, and say with bringing out that joy that the Jews must have had, at least on some level, of course. You can't get to that full level, but on some level, try feeling that joy that the Jews must have had when they were singing the song, thanking God for saving them from the Egyptians. Paragraph 5. Back to the Mizmar Lasoda prayer, that prayer where we thank God. Because that is a replacement for the Karban Toda offering, that was the offering that was brought in the temple, the Thanksgiving offering, whenever the Thanksgiving offering couldn't be brought, we don't say this paragraph. Just parenthetically, see how powerful our prayers are. They're not just like replacements for the offerings in some metaphorical way. It's really as if we're bringing the offering to the point where if we come to a day where the offering wasn't allowed to be brought, we can't say this prayer because that offering can't be brought today. That's how real the prayers are. So on what days were we not allowed to bring the Thanksgiving offering? First of all, it was never brought on Shabbos or on holidays, because on Shabbos and holidays we don't bring voluntary offerings, only the obligatory offerings. Therefore, we do not say Mizmar Lasoda, this paragraph, on Shabbos or on holidays. In addition, part of this offering included 10 loaves of bread, which are chametz. So we would not have it on the intermediary days of Passover, of Pesach, where we're not allowed to eat chametz. So you would never be able to bring this offering. Therefore, we don't say this paragraph on those intermediary days of Pesach. We don't even say it on the morning on Erev Pesach, the morning before Pesach, before Passover, because normally you have for this Thanksgiving offering had to have been eaten. You had the rest of the day that you brought it to eat it, and the night following. So since Passover on the afternoon before Passover, we're not allowed to eat chametz anymore. We're not allowed to have any bread. Therefore, we're shortening the amount of time that you're allowed to eat this offering. That we're not allowed to do, and therefore we're not able to bring the offering at all on the morning before Passover. For the same reason, we don't say this on the day before Yom Kippur, because we're not going to be able to. The offering couldn't be eaten the night of Yom Kippur. It had to have been finished during the daytime, and we're not allowed to limit the amount of time that you have to eat an offering. So therefore, in the temple times, we were not allowed to bring this Thanksgiving offering on the day before Yom Kippur. And nowadays, because of that, we don't either say this Mizmar Lasoda paragraph on the day before Yom Kippur. Paragraph 6. The goal when we're praying with a minyan is to say the Amidah, to begin the Amidah along with the minyan, along with everybody else. And therefore, if we come late, there are some things that we're supposed to skip in Pesukei D'Zimra in order to make sure that we're on board with everybody else for the same spot when they start Shemona Esrei the midah, the silent part, or speaking one-on-one to God. But before we get to what we skip, let's first talk about what's essential, what cannot be skipped. So the first thing is, on page 14 in the article Siddur, the middle paragraph is a blessing of Netilas Yadayim, thanking God for the mitzvah of washing our hands. The next thing that cannot be skipped is on page 16 in the article Siddur, the blessing on the mitzvah of studying Torah. On page 18 in the article Siddur, the top paragraph, the paragraph which thanks God for the blessing, which thanks God for our souls, that has to be said. That cannot be skipped. The next thing to say is the opening blessing of the Pesukei D'Zimra of this section we've been talking about, which is Baruch Sha'amar, which is on page 58. Then we say the Ashrei paragraph, which is on page 66. Following that, we go to Yishtabach, the final blessing of Pesukei D'Zimra of this section, and that is on page number 82. At that point, we can't skip anything else. We have to go straight through the blessings of Shema until we get to Shemona Esrei. Paragraph 7. So all of the rest, other than what we just mentioned, paragraph 6, is able to be skipped. The question is, let's say you have time. What's the order of priority for the remaining paragraphs? So instead of going through it, I'm going to let you in on a little cheat sheet secret. In the back of the article Siddur, there's a section which has the laws of prayer in it. In the version that I'm using, right now I'm in the article, the Wasserman edition of the expanded article Siddur. So in this edition, these laws begin all the way in the back on page 1080. So if you turn to page 1084, then over there, the article Siddur, they go through which paragraph, what's the order for all the rest of the things that you're allowed to skip. You have time to add some more in. What's the priority? Which paragraphs should you say first? So turn to the back of your article Siddur if you're in this situation, page 1084 on the top left, and there they go through which paragraphs have priority, which ones to say first. It gets a bit too confusing for me to just read it out. Paragraph 8. Let's say a person doesn't have talis and tefillin at the beginning of services, and they're going to be able to get it later. Maybe somebody's using it and they're not finished with it yet. So should they wait to get their talis and tefillin before saying this section of davening, this Pesukei D'Zimra section that we've been talking about? Or should they say this without talis and tefillin? And so the answer is, it's best to say it without talis and tefillin, and then you put on your talis and tefillin after Yishtabach on page 82. When you finish the Yishtabach paragraph, that's when you put on your talis and tefillin. But it's supposed to be before the Chazan says the Kaddish after the Yishtabach. So you finish Yishtabach, you put on your talis tefillin, and then you answer Kaddish to the Chazan. Now it could be you'll have to skip a little bit in order to have time to put it on before the Chazan says Kaddish. In which case you go back to you look in the back of the article Siddur, what was discussed in paragraph 7 about what's the best things to skip. This concludes today's learning. Have a wonderful day and see you tomorrow.